pumpkin worm in, chartreuse dye, it turns out like a baby poop green. It doesn't really, look that good. So one of my favorite colors of all time is a black worm with a chartreuse tail. And a lot of different type of creature baits and worms, you can't buy black and chartreuse. It's not a real popular color. So one of my tricks that I do is I'll take a watermelon worm. Now, watermelon is the color that adheres dye better than any other color out there. Watermelon is a great color to do this with. I'll take like a watermelon creature bait or watermelon worm, and I'll dye about 75% of it with black dye, so it's black. Once you dye it, dip it in the water so you don't get it all over your hands, and then dip the tail of it in the chartreuse. So the chartreuse will adhere to that watermelon better, and you still have your black. So that's one of my favorite ways to do it with that. And I use orange a lot. Orange is a color that I use like in the pre-spawn, like February, March, and April. I love putting orange like on, my spinnerbait, or not, not spinnerbait, but like on my jig trailers, my chatterbait trailers, really good color. Some other colors, I do use red a little bit, not a whole lot. Blue's another color I use quite a bit. I'll do the same thing with blue. One of my favorite, like a little trick that I have, or a little secret I have for jig fishing, is take like a green pumpkin, or not a green pumpkin, like a brown jig, and take a green pumpkin trailer that you're going to put on your jig and dye about half of the trailer blue, so that the tails of the trailer are blue, and that brown jig with the blue, not an entirely blue trailer, but half of it's green pumpkin and half of it's blue. I've caught a lot of fish doing that with it. And another thing about coloring dyes, there's two different type of dyes you got. You got the spray dye and you've got the dip and dye. I use both of them. Now, I prefer to use a spray dye because when you're using spray dye, it's like spray paint. You can put different degrees of thickness of the dye on it. You can either make it really bright, or you can just put a little puff on it and make it barely, chartreuse. And then a dye, when you're spray dyeing it, it bleeds in a little bit better. If you take this type of dye and just dip a straight worm in it, it's super bright and it doesn't bleed into the rest of the worm. So the only times that I use the dip and dye is if I just want like the tail of something, dipped. But a lot of times, like on a tube or some other type of baits, I'll spray it on there so I can distribute it a little bit more evenly. So you need both spray and dip. Now, next thing, guys, is you want to have a large selection of fingernail polish. So just go down to Walgreens or Walmart or wherever, and guys, stock up on a rainbow of different type of fingernail polish. Fingernail